matchup.
I'm glad that I don't have to figure that out in order to figure it out. So yes, I mean, there is obviously, you know, a lot on the line there. Last year, actually, Talon did end up making it top of groups. So they ended up going 3-0 against all of the other teams in the group. So we'll have to see whether they managed to make it out of top of groups this time round and repeat history. And I guess, you know, Komai, well, this is going to be their debut here on the World Championship stage.
On the main stage, right? Because they played their first game off stage. So we'll see how they do. There are pros and cons for both of these teams for this matchup. Talon are warm. They've already played their game. So I think they're pretty comfortable where they are. They're ready to go. Komai are going to start the matches a bit cold because they played their games much earlier today, so they've more or less just been spectating, and obviously they watched Talon's game. So I think they have an idea as to how this team is currently playing. So both teams, they're currently in their own zones, and it's a question of who gets the advantage in this first game because, again, the situation for Komai, they cannot afford to lose a single match right now. They have to win 2 games back-to-back.
Yes, they do have to try and win those 2 games back-to-back, but I guess watching that previously, they decided to ban away this Rapidash. Hooper also locked on out. Talon have decided to ban away this Ho-Oh and this Latios, but first pick Charizard. What do you think about Charizard so far that we've seen here today?
Okay, so this is probably a respect pick on the side of Komai. Firstly, Charizard's fantastic because you can isolate certain Pokemon and just chase them down with your Unite, right? I kind of feel like they picked this up to prevent Talon from comfortably picking up that Alolan Raichu. Because we just saw them play 2 rounds of Alolan Raichu. They looked very confident on it, so maybe they thought if we pick the Charizard, it forces Dylan to play a different attacker. And so far, it's going to be a different choice. It's going to be Miraidon this time for Dylan. And Komai, knowing this and seeing the lineup on the side of Talon are kind of fat. They got plenty of thickness on that front line. It's going to be quite difficult to dive into the back to even reach a Miraidon. But we've got one of the best divers in the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want dive, the Master of Illusion right there, Zoroark, whether they're going to be able to dive towards that Miraidon though, it depends on, well, what this last pick is. And, well, we're going to actually have 2 attackers on the side of Talon this time around. Alolan Raichu locked in once again.
I wonder, okay, so the question I have is, are we going to see a swap here? Is Dylan going to get that Alolan Raichu, or are they going to sort of keep it on sync 1 and have Dylan on the Miraidon? Because this does also determine their lanes. Because Dylan wants to be in the lane with whatever Pokemon he has. And so far, I think they're locking in with that Miraidon lane. So this Alolan Raichu, it's going to play a really big role for the team because you need to, essentially, especially up against Komai, you do not want to fall victim to that Zoro this early on because that Pokemon can snowball in this matchup.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's going to have to be a matter of shutting it down, not letting it get online or scale up by getting those KOs, being able to secure those wild Pokemon. But one thing I can say is for certain, Danilee, this match is going to be electrifying.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. I love the puns. But it is going to be pretty interesting to see how these 2 teams pilot their lineups. I mean, we've seen Talon just now, and I think we have a pretty good feeling of how the team likes to play. They do like to stay toe-to-toe up against their opponents. Now, mind you, it was Cakewalk, a team that can play very fast, but also very recklessly, and sometimes that recklessness catches people off guard because they kind of confuse that recklessness with inexperience when it's kind of intentional. It's the Cakewalk play style. So, Komai, on the other hand, I don't think this is a team that really plays like that. I do feel like they're much more refined in terms of like that mid to early game. So keen to see how Talon wants to approach the matchup, which, fun fact, I spoke to Talon very quickly about their matchup with Komai. They say they're feeling pretty confident, but they feel this is going to be a close match.
Well, I guess that's a thing. If you think about Talon's history, they are a group that has been together for quite a while. Whereas Komai, for those of you that would have tuned into EUIC, well, this is a redefined look for them. They actually only have 2 of those members that did play at EUIC here at Worlds. So completely different look for Komai, obviously still rocking that same name. And 2 of those members, well, they're rookies to the world stage. This is the first time that they are here at the World Championships, and that is going to be Narami and Toast. So, you know, playing on that world stage for the first time, there's obviously a whole lot of wave of emotions that comes on in, but really it's going to come down to locking in, as we can see on their faces,
Yeah.
and just block out everything else. And I mean, I guess they have those great mentors there by their sides as well.
Yeah. So we've already seen how Talon plays in their previous matchup. Kels, would you be able to give any new viewers a quick rundown of how Komai likes to play in general?
Well, as I said, it's a rendition of Komai from what we saw. Otherwise, I guess it really depends who they're going up against. Seen a bit mix of play styles coming on in, and I guess considering their draft so far, I mean, it's a world stage. Do you play more aggressively or do you play more passive and defensively? I'm not really sure what type of look Komai are going to be bringing here today.
Yeah. I mean, if we go off of their Pokemon, I'm definitely getting some kind of feel of they do want to put some pressure onto Talon, right? Because you pick Zora.
That's
could you
aggressive.
imagine defensive Zora?
No.
It's like this reactive Zora. No. That's not how you play with the Pokemon. But I wonder who they're going to identify on the side of Talon that they feel they have to shut down first, right? Like, do they need to focus the Miraidon or the Alolan Raichu, right? Like, who is the priority target? Because you also have to consider the player and what lane that Pokemon is going to be in. And based off of what we currently know, it's going to be bottom lane Miraidon. So from there on, they have to figure out, okay, are we going to target the central laner, or do we let the central laner go and shut down the side lanes instead? Because that's another strategy some teams like to employ. You cripple the side lanes. The side laners have basically been set back so far that even though you have a central laner that's there to provide assistance, the lack of levels, it prevents them from actually getting the secures if they try and go for rotations.
I think it's so hard to try and speculate what to do when the time comes. Obviously, when you put pen to paper, make all these mental notes and everything, well, things can get turned topsy-turvy depending on what the opponents end up doing. So they can try and plan for X, Y, Z, but they could be completely caught off guard by Talon, depending on what they choose to bring this time around.
Yeah. So it's going to be up to the teams. Maybe I kind of think Komai have to be in the driver's seat for this matchup, especially with what's really on basically what's on the line. Because we've said this just now, they cannot afford to lose a match. Because I think the moment they lose a match, I think they are out of the running for making it to day 2.
Yes, well, they've already been defeated by Kakalok.
And Kakalok lost to Talon. So now you kind of have to complete the cycle and get a 2-0 yourself to counteract that 2-1 from Talon.
Aha, that's where it comes into play. They have to do the 2-0. Otherwise, if it's 2-1, well, then even things just get even more complicated, don't
Well,
they?
no, if they get the 2-1, then I think points-wise, they would basically lose the tiebreaker.
Oh,
Because there are tiebreakers in place to determine like who kind of makes it through. So based off of what is on top of my head, yeah, they have the 2-0. Otherwise, they do not make it to day 2 at all. So this game 1, if you're Komai, you need to lock in.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. Nearing the end of the day, but only having the 3 teams in that group, there's obviously a lot on the line. Both of these teams want to try and make it forward to day 2 tomorrow. The top 16, only 2 teams end up progressing on through, and one of them ends up missing out. But which team is it going to be?
Yeah, it could be Komai, it could be Talon. We really don't know at this point, so we'll have to find out. It's going to come down to the teams, what they're going to do, how they're going to play, and what really ends up being the result of this first game. Because if it's a Komai victory for game number 1, then Komai only needs 1 more win, but then Talon has to reverse sweep with the next 2-game victory. So it's a long road really for both of these teams, really depending on who gets that first win and who gets that early advantage, which I think really comes down to those lanes, right? Like if you can command the lanes, it kind of makes it difficult for your opponents to set their comeback plan into motion as well. Because if you're the one in the driver's seat, you kind of decide where the fights happen, when they happen, and unfortunately for whoever's on the receiving end of this, you need to play reactively, and certain comps cannot do that, and Zora is one of them. This is not a Pokemon that can really afford to play reactively. You need to be proactive to really play this Pokemon.
I guess that's where it really shines, being able to utilize not only its illusion to go and trick your opponents, but also when to utilize that Unite move. But there we go, folks. We are heading on into our first game of Komai Esports, who are on the purple side, Talon on the orange. Are you ready, Danalee?
Oh, I am ready. I don't know if the audience is ready though, because this is going to be such an intense matchup. We do have a quick score there by the Eevee, who is trying to get into that Umbreon stage as quick as possible. I kind of think this Umbreon will play a key role into potentially shutting down that Zoro, right? Because with Zoro, you want that hard lockdown.
Yeah, the mean look is definitely mean when going on into that Zoroark, not able to go and make those dives. But Toast has already reached that level 5 and trying to shut down RBX, but because of that dunking, they're invulnerable at that moment and don't end up getting any HP chipped away.
Yeah, and that's also a little bit of experience in the side of Talon too, because they got that knockout onto that Snorlax. So already not looking too great for Komai, but then again, it is still very early. Maybe up top they can redeem themselves, but they can't really if they're going to potentially lose the Zoro here, able to duck and dive and dodge, and will survive and get 2 knockouts in that top lane. This is what Komai need. They need to snowball, and 2 knockouts in the top lane is just how you do it.
Getting those knockouts up in the top lane obviously paid off for them, but Talon entering back with a push of their own down in that bottom path. They still have the points lead at 61 to 49, but it is still early days ahead. Surprising that Toast didn't actually end up retreating back to go and get their central area. Instead, we have Zante there trying to contest this invade happening from Talon.
Uh-oh, I think they might be surrounded here. They tried to go for a cheeky elimination, but this Eldegoss should be able to finish off the Alolan Raichu, and there we go. Raichu is down. Umbreon next one to follow, and Talon maybe being a little bit too aggressive with their movements, thinking they could be very cheeky with stealing that central area. We do have a battle happening down bottom. Zoro trying to go for that Miraidon, but maybe taking a little bit too much in that situation, having to back up and not getting knocked out himself. Got to be so careful around Dylan on that Miraidon. If you get clipped by 2 moves, that's lights out for a Zoro.
Oh yeah, the charge beam distance can actually reach quite far, and it shreds if that Miraidon is able to get those maneuvers in. Otherwise, we do have the next set of birds spawning in shortly. Those Electro Balls, they're
so
ready
smart
to go and explode.
No, that is so smart if you think about it, because if you park the Electro Balls on top of your Miraidon, Zoro can't jump that.
No.
Because that's a knockout if I ever saw one. So
the amount of times I have been gone into a bush and been knocked out by all the Electro Balls hiding on in there is surprising. And Zoroark's really squishy, but otherwise we do have 8 points remaining on this top tier 1 pad as the Zacian needs to back on out, but even then with the Fire Blast, they end up getting knocked on down.
Yeah, with the Zacian down, they're not really feeling too confident wanting to jump onto that tier 1 goal zone, so they're going to have to give it away. But it looks like the Alolan Raichu. I don't know where, when, how, or why, but the Zoro getting clipped there and was knocked out. So unfortunately for Komai, you know, sensing that one of your major hard hitters on your team being knocked out there, they did have to back out a little bit. And unfortunately, they now gave some breathing room to Talon to reposition as these 2 teams get ready to fight for that Regieleki in that top lane. Down bottom, though, Lance is going to secure that Regirock, so the defense buff is going to be huge here for Talon.
Yeah, this is going to be huge advantage for Talon going on into this next fight, but I guess they're just going to back on up. Zoroark going in aggressively, but ends up failing as they end up getting eliminated. And now we have the eject button from Marv straight into Lance, and just taking Talon for a little bit of a trip, while the rest of the members of Komai are taking a quick breather and reset.
Oh boy, beautiful. Again, just beautiful execution from Talon. It seems like they are reading Komai really well in a lot of these fights, where Komai think it's time to go in, but Talon, they've just stacked all of their supports perfectly to be there whenever someone gets collapsed upon. So unfortunately for Komai, they can't really go for this reckless run into Talon, try to pick up somebody and go for that insta-KO anymore. I think you need to be a little bit more calculative with those entry points and maybe try and go for that backstab, go for a pick-off, go for the wraparound. You kind of have to pull off a play where Talon isn't going to be expecting you. So we're going to be seeing this Regieleki pulled down to half health, no full commit, but Snorlax starting to fight Hells.
Yeah, they're going in with that block, and Charizard is also going to dive on in to try and burn Talon on down. Headed on into this Flux Zone. We do have a clean break from Marv with that 5 points, so that is going to allow them that space to go and get that Regieleki. But thing is, Talon, they're trying to slowly creep on up, but the block to push up that Zacian up against the wall.
They pushed up the Zacian. We still have Dylan really trying to dish out that damage on the Miraidon, and now Komai not looking too comfortable here, just trying to zone out, especially that Snorlax. But the Regieleki, it does get secured. Beautiful play by Komai to keep Talon zoned away from the objective. And so that's going to start waltzing on down in that top lane. And in 5 seconds, we're going to be getting that bottom Reggie as well. Is it going to be an important one? A Reggie steal here would be amazing for any of these teams. But I do believe that's a Reggie Rock.
Well, I don't know that cry. Maybe potentially a jerk. I mean, you are the
close.
queen of the Pokemon cries after all,
You're
okay?
telling that to a deaf lady? Oh, jeez.
Oh, but there we go. Reggie steal, despite Talon losing that Regieleki, they did leave it up to that Zacian to go and shred it on down, and 4 members are down here. But Komai Esports looks like they're not going to contest it. We can see on the mini-map there that they're heading up towards that top path, but were unable to stop this 40 points going in from Lance.
I think it was a smart play for Komai not to really try and fight for that bottom Reggie, because it is in a pretty small choke point. And there's a lot of AoE on the side of Talon that can really catch them out. So I think it was a smart idea. Sure, you're giving away an attack buff to the enemy team, but I think it's probably better to just give a buff away rather than maybe 3, 4, 5 Pokemon worth of experience on top of that buff.
I guess that's where you really have to make these tough decisions on whether to contest these objectives or not. Thing is, both of these teams still have a tier 1 available on opposite ends. Komai are just going to focus on getting these wild Pokemon that is available on their side, but it is very sparse right now.
Very sparse, and especially with how Talon is moving, they're playing pretty deep because they want to try and catch that vision of where everyone is, because if a key Pokemon such as that Charizard is still in the central area, that is a sign for Talon to just go, go, go. And speaking of going, Kels, they do try to go for that Snorlax, but they don't get him.
How did Marv survive that? I am so surprised. I think that was an eject button and a heavy slam at the same time or something. Otherwise, it looks like no KOs for either side. Instead, we have Umbreon and Zacian going in for a reset. This Regieleki, if this gets taken by Komai, that's heading towards tier 2 and going to put Talon in a tricky position. Do you go and defend it? Do you go and get the prime positioning in the Rayquaza pit? Because that's spawning in about 15 seconds here.
Yeah, 15 seconds. That is more than enough time for somebody to sit there and potentially eliminate that Regieleki. But I think once they reveal that it's Zacian up there trying to defend the Reggie, this is also going to help Komai decide if they want to try and fight, because they know the Zacian isn't there. And it's going to be a while until he does anything. But actually, they let the Regieleki through. And look at Zoro wanting to make a big wraparound and go for that big 100-point dunk. That's going to put Komai in an advantageous position. But is this maybe a trap? Maybe Talon want them to do this, because we've seen teams do it before. The moment you see the dunk, a fight breaks out.
Oh, there we go. Umbreon goes in for the dive just as Toast ends up getting that 100 points. And now Talon are trying to shred down this Rayquaza. They are needing to back on up. Komai Esports are being smart here. They're not going into the tall grass where the electric balls were planted, but they're going to just disperse right now. And, well, Komai, they have the point advantage, so Talon need to try and make a play here.
Talon do need to make a play. Now, to be fair, they do have quite a bit of shred. They've got 2 long-range attackers that can go through that Rayquaza. It's just a matter of, are they going to be able to get that secure? Looks like Snorlax are catching out too! Oh, but they use the eject button to go on back, but is this going to be the end of Talon? They've lost the Miraidon. One of their attackers is gone.
Thunder. Can you hear the thunder? Well, no, you cannot, because Miraidon is out of the field right now. RBX also ends up getting taken down. Only 3 members of Talon are remaining. And Komai, they don't need to take this Rayquaza. They just need to defend. But the isolation's coming out from Marv with a heavy slam and block to just go and feed the opponents to their members. These plays are insane from Marv.
Oh my gosh, I think Sync won. He's been caught out in the enemy bush and he gets knocked out as well. He's gone for 25 seconds, so basically he is out of the game. It's going to be down to KYY. Dylan is back on that Miraidon, but the block from that Snorlax, they know this is the Pokemon that can go for the steal. Zoro going to be eliminated by the Umbreon. Mewtwo will lock in on that Miraidon. We have almost 100 points by the Umbreon, but I don't think you can score that in time. I think Komai might have just taken game number 1.
Wow, I mean, we were talking about the complications when it comes down to this set, the 2 1s, the 2 0s, and how that is going to end up faring out. But Komai Esports, despite having 2 rookies over on their side, they are definitely demonstrating their prowess right now.
Game 1. Step 1 for Komai. Check. Step 2, win game number 2. And they're going to be coming into game number 2 feeling really good. You know, they've had a great game number 1, beautiful play in that late game. I really love how they selected particular targets and focused them down rather than getting a little bit too confused, focusing on multiple targets. It was just, I want to see that in game number 2. If Komai is going to have a chance of getting that 2-0, they need to keep this up. Now, the thing is, on the side of Talon, I do think Talon played that game rather well, but there were a couple moments where I felt the team did get a little bit lost, and it was especially around that Rayquaza pit, because they did try to punish when the Zoro went for the score. Yeah. But the issue is, it didn't connect. They needed that initial attack to connect. If they got the instant knockout the first time round, that should have been a game 1 for Talon.
Yeah, but I guess that's the thing. When you really look at it as a whole picture, you have the numbers advantage, but I guess the engage just didn't end up working out in their favor. Zorok being able to get the 100, coming on back, 3 members down, and you know, you can see that Talon trying to shred up this Rayquaza. It was actually brought down to below a quarter HP, but Komai Esports, they just put the defenses on.
So Komai, they are 1 game up in this best